So, I got kids. Many of us are, we all have kids that are going to be entering high school, college, etc. Um, and so, as we, as employers, companies think about this next generation of talent and how to make the workplace a place where they can flourish. Um, what is your what is your point of view on what organizations leaders need to be doing for this next generation? And maybe related, what are some of the innovations in the space, maybe startup opportunities that you might see that could arise as a result? And it may be unrelated, but you can treat them as two separate questions. Yeah.
Yeah, I would like them to be more related. Like I would,
Yeah.
I'm always looking for those solutions, and I think there's a lot of big meaty problems to be solved in the health and well-being space. I haven't seen a lot of companies who have figured out how to make a good amount of money there and therefore grow. Peloton being a recent example of a success story. But back to your question, I think about there's a guy at Harvard named Casper ter Kuile, and he runs this thing called the Sacred Design Lab. And he has tried to take like, hey, what's all the things that we can learn from the spiritual and religious world and translate it to like, what are the core needs that are really underlying what people were maybe previously getting from church, but as more people become unchurched, they're going to things like, CrossFit, or they're finding this meaning in the workplace. And so he's come up with this concept of spiritual health that he talks about in three aspects: becoming, belonging, and beyond. So becoming is, do you have a path towards becoming some greater version of yourself that's meaningful to you? Belonging, are you part of a group that is meaningful to you? And then beyond, are you part of a movement or working towards something greater than yourself? And so if I think about those three checkboxes, you can already see companies that are at kind of like the leading edge of this, and they're reaping disproportionate rewards for being able to do this really well. Like Google, I believe, is one where it's like people within the Google ecosystem, there's amazing growth opportunities. There's amazing team culture that you can belong to. And then the mission of organizing the world's information and continuing to contribute to this like amazing company is really, really meaningful to so many of the employees. So I think going forward, if I were a CEO, I would think about, can I authentically check those boxes? Like first for myself, like, am I starting this organization because it enables all those things for me? And then second, how do I bring others along on that journey? So that's from the CEO lens. And then for innovations, yeah, I think the things I think about a lot are, there's a lot of interesting things coming out with wearables, and there's more emphasis on tracking stress and recovery, which I think is a great step. Sleep trackers are just normal, like so many people have them. Movement trackers, same thing.
Yeah.
I think there's some science to still be figured out in terms of measuring mental performance, and then doing so in, say, the corporate context, or in some context where you could say like, okay, how is someone performing and contributing to an organization? Like, for example, the place we go to a lot to understand what's the latest and greatest is actually the sports world and the military world.
Yeah.
Because one, they have a huge incentive to measure various stuff about their people. And then second, like their context it's structured in a way where the things they can measure tie pretty directly to end performance of the individual or the group. I don't think we figured that out in the corporate space. I think some things around stress tracking and sleep tracking are kind of upstream behaviors, but I think there's a lot to be figured out there. So that's one thing I'll offer. The other thing I'll offer is that within the health and well-being space, you see these, well, I'll call them ecosystem apps pop up, where you have the app that connects you to the practitioner that may tie to your wearable, and then gives you like a program to follow. And so as we looked at a lot of these, and tested some with various Googlers or Google employees, we found were like you need to check 3 boxes with this to make it work really, really well. Is one is, do you give people a path or a program towards a meaningful goal? 2, do they have expert guidance? So did that program come from someone that they trust and lend expert credibility to? And then 3, do they get human accountability? Like I believe in the future, the accountability might not have to be human, but for everything we tested, humans far outpaced any electronic means for accountability. Now, if a company can hit all those 3 things and figure out a business model that's going to make them a lot of money so this thing can grow, like that's one place where we saw a lot of apps fall down, was where they actually checked those 3 boxes pretty well. They couldn't figure out how to build a great business out of this. So if you can figure out those three things and figure out the great business side, there is a lot of opportunity in this space.
Yeah. It's one of the perils of being an entrepreneur in this space, because it's very much heart driven, right? It's very much coming from a purpose, and so when you align purpose very tightly with what you're doing, sometimes money and the business part falls to the side, and it's a good lesson for purpose driven entrepreneurs to not forget that you gotta have a business. So yeah.